Hi, everybody, and welcome to a special live edition of Champagne and JD. I'm Andrew Champagne alongside JD Fox. Couple of new things this week. I'm playing hurt, having had a wisdom tooth pulled just yesterday. As I told these guys earlier today, if we were going on settings, this would be like after Mike Tyson hits you with a right cross, right in and about here. Hopefully, you guys can hear me okay. Hopefully, I sound okay. And if I don't, blame JD because he's the one in charge of all the technical know-how. However, our guest this week, another big name we're very happy to have. He merits no introduction or needs no introduction, but JD, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to give him one anyway because that's just the kind of guy I am. If you've been following horse racing any length of time, you know this guy made his bones at the Meadowlands doing pretty much everything. He's worked for TVG, he now works for TwinSpires, doing a variety of really cool things. A guy that I have the pleasure to chat with every week on our cousin podcast, That's What G Said. Darin Zoccali is with us to talk to Preakness. Darin, welcome to the show.
Yeah, jack of all trades, master of none would be my role throughout horse racing. Thanks for having me on, guys. Really excited to talk about the Preakness. Just a stellar card at Pimlico tomorrow. I think there's some price opportunities in the Preakness race itself, and just thrilled to be with you to talk about the race.
It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to this. A 12-race program on Preakness Saturday. Remember, the Preakness is race number 11. There is another race after that, and I can guarantee you at least one of us will be talking about it. And you know what? If JD's talking about it, two of us will be talking about it. That's called foreshadowing, kids.
Potentially. I might change it up now. You never know. I got some time to decide before final thoughts.
It's okay. You're predictable. You've tipped your hand. You have no poker face. Just saying. Anyway, we're going to shift now to the Preakness, the final jewel of this year's Triple Crown. Authentic leading the field for this year's renewal. Field of 11 going postward, and Authentic, one would think, would be favored. However, very early betting as of right now on Friday evening when we're taping this has Art Collector as the 4-5 favorite. This will obviously change as more money gets pumped into the pools. Authentic won the Kentucky Derby, did so pretty impressively. And Darin, I got to tell you, rewatching that race, seeing Authentic re-break when Tiz the Law came to apparently collar him at the top of the stretch, that was pretty darn impressive.
It was, and it caught me by surprise. Anybody that follows me on Twitter knows that after the Haskell, I tweeted out, I'll take bets from anybody on Authentic holding off Tiz the Law in the Kentucky Derby. Now, being the sport that I am, I actually retweeted that tweet after the Derby and said, well, this aged well. Could not have been more wrong. Listen, a tremendous effort from a very talented racehorse. Surprised me because off his Haskell, where he appeared to be on his hands and knees despite kind of loping along through rather easy fractions at Monmouth, he needed every bit of ground to hold off New York traffic. And it really shocked me when you look at Tiz the Law, who came out of the Travers, who looked like he could beat any horse on the planet, that he was not able to get by Authentic. But no Tiz the Law this time. The price will be much shorter. And there's an old saying that if you weren't there for the wedding, don't be there for the funeral.
Yeah, that's certainly the case. Now, can Authentic win? I think we all sort of believe that a scenario exists, but are we picking Authentic on top? In all three of our cases, the answer is no. Now, Darin and JD are both going with significantly bigger prices than what I'm going with. So, JD, I will leave you to directing traffic here as all three of us go through our top four selections in the run for the Black Eyed Susans on Saturday afternoon at Pimlico.
Yeah, I'm going to start with the least crazy opinion of the two of us, and I think that's Darin's, obviously. So we're going to go ahead and let Darin talk about his top selection here in the Preakness.
Okay, great. So I actually like this horse going a bit into the Belmont Stakes, and he ran admirably, finishing fourth. I'm talking about number 10, Pneumatic. 20-1 on the morning line. Not exactly sure what price he's going to be. I was a little more confident earlier in the week when we did Gino's show about the price, and I'll talk about why in just a minute. Look, why I like this horse. A very lightly raced colt with a world of upside. Very talented. Won his first two races. He beat a couple of next out maiden winners in that first start who earned strong figures on both the Ragozins and the Buyer scale. Came back to beat Captain Bombastic next time out in a tough optional claimer. who came out of that race to win a stake race. Then you have the Matt Winn, where he ran a bang-up third behind far more seasoned horses like Maxfield and New York Traffic. The Belmont Stakes had a wide trip going one turn on that big sweeping turn at Big Sandy, and I don't think either of those things played well to him. I think he's better as a two-turn horse. He was wide the entire way on the turn, and I think that caught up to him at the end of the race. His Pegasus was phenomenal, stalked off speed, made a big move on the turn, rolled home, and was just kind of in hand coming down to the wire. He could have won by 5 or 6 had he wanted to, granted against far less competition. The thing I like about him also from a Ragozin standpoint is that he started off fast. He earned an 8 in his first career start, kind of stepped back a little bit to a 9 second time, and then an 11 third time. Although that's not necessarily a bad reaction. Only 3 points off his top after 2 starts and starting off that quickly. But now he's cycling back forward with a 9 next time out in the Belmont and a 7 3/4 in the Pegasus. So he is getting faster again. He's coming off a new top that was only of a quarter of a point higher than his previous top. So he's not likely to bounce. He's likely to take another move forward or at least duplicate that effort. And that kind of an effort puts him in the mix. Is he good enough to win? We'll see. But the problem I'm running into, I was on last night a Zoom with a lot of people that read the Ragozin sheets, and a lot of the sheet players see the same thing that I see, and they like this horse. I'm hoping to get every bit of that 20-1, but because of that reason, I'm a little less confident tonight.
I think going into my thoughts and really, I'm trip handicapping here when it comes to my selection. I'm going to go ahead and put my crazy selection up on the board so you guys can see it here. But Live Your Beast Life, 30-1 on the morning line. Actually, in early action, playing a lot lower than that, playing sub 20-1. I'm looking at this race as a very hot pace potential race, and I'm looking at who can pass horses late in this race. And I think Pneumatic's a great place to start when you're starting to look at who in the career can close and can close quickly and pass runners. But I'm looking at the obviously familiar ties with Live Your Beast Life. And obviously when you do that, you're thinking this horse probably is going to end up in the turf long term. Time and Motion, obviously, half sister to Live Your Beast Life, won the QE2 in 2016 at Keeneland. Really strong horse at this distance and slightly further in the career. Obviously peaked as a 3-year-old, and I think Live Your Beast Life is getting to the peak races as a 3-year-old here, and we're seeing steady improvement. And I'm looking at the last out in the Jim Dandy. We're talking about a near double-digit buyer improvement to a career best 94 buyer. You're not really seeing double-digit buyer improvements from horses in this field other than Pneumatic and Live Your Beast Life. And to a lesser extent, you can make the same argument for Mr. Big News, who I know a couple of you guys like as well in this. I'm looking for improvement, and I'm always looking for improvement when it comes to Preakness time. Obviously, this has been a crazy year, and you're looking at a horse improving late in the 3-year-old campaign. But I do think that the pace is going to exist for Live Your Beast Life to make a strong effort. And I like this horse a little bit, and at the morning line odds at 30-1, I'm okay putting it on top. I really think you want to include this ticket or include this horse on all of your various exotic tickets. I do think Live Your Beast Life is going to come running late, and if the pace scenario is as strong as I think it may be, there might be enough pieces for Live Your Beast Life to pick it up and pick up the whole thing. Andrew, obviously I'm picking a horse that I haven't really talked about on this show before. You're picking a horse that we have basically at this point beat into the ground, and that is Art Collector.
Beaten into the ground is a little bit of a stretch. Let's calm down, JD. First of all, if I had one of those How I Met Your Mother style intervention banners and could fit it in the little box that I'm in right now, I'd be busting it out because I think you're way off on a ledge there with Live Your Beast Life. I can't say I disagree with the whole, looks like there's a lot of speed on paper, but that's where Art Collector comes in. Everybody is saying Art Collector wants the lead. Art Collector wants the lead. Art Collector wants the lead. No, he doesn't. Art Collector is a stalker and can potentially rate from further behind than that. I think Art Collector is going to sit an ideal trip, 2, 3, maybe 4 lengths off of a very fast pace, and at first run turning for home. We know about Art Collector at this point. His win in the Bluegrass was exceptional, where he dispatched Swiss Skydiver. He won the Ellis Park Derby handily. He was on the lead that day, but that's just because he was the best horse by leaps and bounds that day. A couple of those horses came back and ran back in the Kentucky Derby. Art Collector had a minor hiccup on the road to the Run for the Roses, decided not to run in that race, wound up running in the Preakness, and sometimes skipping a big race like that can pay dividends in the long run. Art Collector is a fresh horse. I think he'll be the second choice. Initially, at the start of the week, I was hoping maybe he would be the third choice and that Swiss Skydiver would get bet simply because she's a filly going up against the boys. That's not being reflected in the early wagering. Really hope that changes. Art Collector, 5-2 on the morning line. Really hope we get that price come post time. I think he is the one to beat.
And going in our kind of snake draft order here, Andrew, I'm going to go ahead and give you top honors on Authentic, a horse you absolutely hated in the Kentucky Derby. And that is hated, all capitalized, including doing this the entire time I talked about Authentic.
Yes, and it was an effort to not do that when you talked about Live Your Beast Life. So you know what I've done? I've learned from my failures. Authentic ran a big race in Kentucky, and we need to give credit where it's due to jockey John Velasquez, because Authentic did not break well. People forget that, but he broke a half step slowly from that far outside post. John Velasquez did not panic. John Velasquez sent Authentic to the lead. He knew that that first quarter was going to be a little bit on the quick side, but it didn't matter. He used his speed to bottom out the field over a track where nobody wound up really rallying. You can make the exception for Mr. Big News, but his rally came on the backstretch as opposed to when they were turning for home. Look, if Authentic goes out in 23 and change to the quarter, 47 to the half, it's over. That's the race. He wins. I don't think that's the way this sets up. Authentic is almost certainly going to be favored come post time. I think he's going to be bet down from his 9-5 morning line price. Could he win? Absolutely. At that price, I think he's a little bit of an underlay, but you have to at least consider him. He's certainly a factor, and anything close to his race in Kentucky will make him tough. I just prefer Art Collector on top as the fresh horse at a bit of a bigger price.
And look, for me, Authentic in my two spot here, and Authentic is going to probably lead 85% of this race if Authentic doesn't win. So if you get the fractions that you rattled off, Andrew, Authentic's gone and wins this race probably by 4 or 5 lengths. I mean, we saw Authentic re-break and really brush aside the challengers in the Kentucky Derby, and could possibly do it again here and at a distance that probably Authentic is a little more comfortable at. Honestly. So with that being said, Authentic in the number 2 hole for me. And Darin, you like Andrew's horse here in the 2 spot.
Yeah, if there's somebody who liked Art Collector, I won't say more than Andrew, but just about as much as Andrew in the Bluegrass Stakes, it was me.
Attaboy.
Yeah, this was a horse that all of a sudden, things clicked for him in his last start as a 2-year-old. He improved tremendously from a buyer standpoint. His previous effort on dirt was a 58. He jumped almost 30 points. And then smartly, he was put away for the winter. Came back 6 months later and ran an equally as good a race. He ran a 7 on the Ragazine sheets that last start as a 2-year-old. He came back and ran a 7 again in his first start off of a 6-month layoff, which is not something you see in too many horses unless they're really, really good. What has he done since then from a Ragazine perspective? 6 3/4, 5.5, 6 3/4. Slight regression in the Ellis Park Derby, but I really just believe that was because he was so much the best that day. He didn't exert everything he had to. He was getting enough of a tune-up for the Kentucky Derby where they were really targeting to try to move him back forward. Unfortunately, he didn't make the race due to a minor foot issue. Comes into this race in fine form. There's no reason why he shouldn't run between a 5.5 and a 7 on the Ragazines. There's no reason why he shouldn't run between a 101 and a 105 from a buyer standpoint. That puts him in the top 2. I think he's going to be a slightly better price than Authentic. Authentic for me is a better version of War Emblem. I think he's not necessarily a need the lead per se, but he really, really wants the lead. Whereas Art Collector is a little more versatile, a little more handy. You could do a little bit more with him. As long as Brian Hernandez stays out of trouble here, doesn't get pinned down on the rail by a fast-leaving skydive or 1,000 words, and gets himself in the clear, I think he is going to be a handful to hold off. He is my second choice and a major, major win contender.
And Authentic, go ahead and touch on. I know we've covered a lot, Darin. So any thoughts you have on Authentic?
Yeah, for him, it's going to come down to two things. It's going to come down to the break, and it's going to come down to what this pace scenario actually looks like. If he's allowed to go out there in 23, 46, and 2, it could be race over. I think there's more speed in this race, though, than there was in the Kentucky Derby. And there's another point that I made on Gino's show that I think is actually going to come to hand here. We see a lot of races in places like New York where we are very critical of the riders, biding their time, allowing horses to just kind of lope along in the lead on a slow pace, not moving into that pace soon enough, and horses continuously going wire to wire because of it. We have a different lineup of jockeys here than the Preakness that we would ever see before. You don't see Irad Ortiz, you don't see Jose Ortiz, you don't see Joel Rosario. You see guys like Brian Hernandez Jr., you see Robbie Alvarado, who's probably nearing the end of his career, hungry for a win in the Classic. You see guys like Caramanos, Paco Lopez. These are aggressive riders. I think that's going to ensure a faster pace than if we had seen some of the other big-name riders in here. I think they're all going to be gunning for a position. A lot of horses want to be in a similar spot early on. That usually leads to a fast pace, and I think that puts Authentic in a little bit of a tougher spot. That's why I have him third in this one.
You mean to tell me that horse players complain about jockeys and early positioning and slow paces and nobody wants the lead? Darin, surely you jest. Horse players never, ever, ever complain or even whine or gripe or mope. None of that. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Almost as much as wrestling fans complain about the writing and booking of wrestling events.
Well, those wrestling fans have clearly never seen the AWA Team Challenge series like we have.
Well played.
Fans of podcasts, by all means, go back and listen to Gino Baccola's and our interview with former AWA and Dallas Stars play-by-play man Ralph Strangis. A lot of fun couple of weeks ago, and you'll be able to get that reference. Though I will say, if you watch that, there ought to be a Surgeon General's warning down the bottom saying it's hazardous to your health. JD, your third selection
is Art Collector, and I don't think I have anything more poetic to add than what you guys have said. I mean, my concern with Art Collector is if Swiss Skydiver and 1,000 Words catch flyers and Art Collector gets jammed inside, that's a concern for me because I much prefer Art Collector stalking very close to the pace than having to come from 6 or 7 lengths back in this scenario. That's my one concern with Art Collector. I think there's a strong chance Art Collector wins this race with the right trip and Authentic coming back a little bit. And I do think the pace is going to be hotter than the Derby. I agree with that point as well. So Art Collector, not a lot of new stuff from me. And we've got an interesting horse for Andrew here in the third spot.
I have hated Max Player in every start this season for reasons that have nothing to do with this horse. It's not my racehorse, but it is a similar sort of organization with people buying micro shares of each horse. So Max Player has tens of thousands of different owners, and all of them bet. As a result, Max Player, through no fault of him, he is a nice, honest, solid horse, has been an underlay in several occasions this year. However, as we've mentioned, the early pace will likely be very, very hot in this race. Max Player makes his second start for trainer Steve Asmussen. Remember, there was a trainer switch before the Kentucky Derby, and I think he's in line for major improvement, and that will actually get the 15-1 morning line price. I have him third, but if Pimlico is playing fairly, big if, because Pimlico has been very speed favoring to this point in its meet, so watch the earlier races. But if Pimlico is playing fairly and they go out in 22-4, 45-4 for the half, Max Player has a big shot at a big price. And I think that is the deep closer you cannot ignore if you're playing multi-race exotics, because he's 15-1 on the morning line. I think we'll get it. And I also think he'll play bigger than that in pick threes, pick fours, doubles, what have you. I think he is a must use as a potential come from way out of the clouds and rally for all of it at a big price when Authentic and Swiss Skydiver and Thousand Words and maybe Art Collector are a bit leg weary late. So I had to use Max Player in that spot.
And another horse that maybe didn't rally late in the Derby, but rallied kind of mid-race, Mr. Big News, you have in the 4th spot.
Yeah, Mr. Big News turned my head certainly with his performance in Kentucky. That was the second big surprise of that race beyond Authentic winning, was the fact that clunking up for third, seemingly 9,000 lengths behind Tis the Law, was Mr. Big News. And that margin actually wasn't all that small when you go back and rewatch the race and focus on Mr. Big News. Now, is Mr. Big News talented enough to win? I don't necessarily think so. However, he's another deep closer, gets jockey Gabriel Syez, who, as I mentioned on Gino's podcast, may well be the most underrated rider in the country. He has been winning at a 13-15% clip for what seems like forever. He rode a lot for Larry Jones back when the Larry Jones barn was really going strong. He rode a number of very good horses, Proud Spell, 8 Bells, a couple others. He is also the regular rider for By My Standards, a horse that we've seen a lot. And Gabriel Syez and Brett Calhoun, those two connect at a very high rate with a very high ROI. When those two team up, they usually mean business. Now, again, can Mr. Big News win? I think that's a stretch. But given the race shape, which we've talked about ad nauseum, he's another horse that I would certainly recommend throwing in on the bottom of vertical exotics for sure. He's another that's going to be a fairly big price. And if Authentic tires or just doesn't fire, that's another horse that could potentially light up the tote board underneath.
And I'm going with Pneumatic in my 4th spot. I like the well-traveled nature of Pneumatic at this point in the career. Has done it on all sorts of surfaces against some biases, just ran solid races time in, time out. So is this the perfect setup, where I'd want to place Pneumatic? Maybe not, but obviously this is the big stakes race that's available, and they've gotten 5 works in from the last race in the Pegasus at Monmouth, running at Saratoga. A nice bullet on the 21st. I think the horse is going to be in good form, going to be well rested and ready to go, and ready to maybe be the first closer to hit the scene. We've been talking about closers. I think Pneumatic is probably going to be the closest of the closers. Probably will get first run on the other horses that we're talking about. So Pneumatic for me in spot number 4. And there you go, Darin.
Yeah, how cool would it be if Jersey Joe Bravo won a Preakness? That would be really exciting for us on the East Coast. So another reason for me to root for Pneumatic besides my win plays. Mr. Big News is the horse that I selected 4th. But to be honest with you, you can go in a million different directions here. I wanted to talk about Mr. Big News because he has a very interesting Ragozin sheet. The horse had never been faster than an 11 prior to the Kentucky Derby, and all of a sudden he jumped up and ran a 6 1/4, almost 5 points faster. And now he comes back about a month later in the Preakness. It's interesting because is he now turning the corner and is a completely different racehorse, or does he bounce to the moon? One of those two things is going to happen. This horse is either going to run really well or he's going to run really bad. Which it is, I don't know. But if you're a Ragozin player and you see a sheet where you see 14, 15, 11, 12, 6, that 6 is either an indication of, okay, the switch went on and that's going to continue, or one-hit wonder and we're going all the way backwards. So I wanted to, talk about that. But for me, because I'm a little bit leery, I'm going to keep him more on the bottom of the tickets. He's a deep closer. If he gets the right setup, he can certainly rally into it. I am worried about the aforementioned bounce. But that being said, for 3rd or 4th, you have to include him in case he runs back to that Kentucky Derby.
I want to talk really quickly before we move on about the obvious contender none of us used in the top 4. I'm referring to Swiss Skydiver, and this isn't because I have some vendetta against the horse in my case. Swiss Skydiver is a really cool racehorse that has run consistently since summer or fall of her 2-year-old year. No breaks, Ken McPeak has sent her to all the big spots for 3-year-old fillies. She's danced a lot of dances. Her win in the Alabama a couple of starts back was special. Having said that, I just don't think there's a path for her to win this race, judging by the race shape and what she showed in the Kentucky Oaks. She was a very good second that day, I grant you that, but she stalked behind Gamine a little bit. She Dares the Devil got first run on Gamine. If you look back and watch that race, pause it when they turn for home and tell me how many lengths you think Swiss Skydiver wins by. Not if she wins, but by how much. I don't think she wants to stalk. I think her one path to victory lies in speedballing it to the front and leading for as long as she can, and with Authentic in the field, with 1,000 Words in the field, with maybe Art Collector in the field, and I think Pneumatic may be a little bit closer to the pace and may have to be from that far outside post. I just don't think the path to victory is there with Swiss Skydiver. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. That's the sort of horse that I will let beat me. And again, I think she'll drift down a little bit off of her morning line odds simply because she's a filly going against the boys.
Go ahead, JD. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, and obviously people want to listen to you, what you have to say on that more, Darin, but I agree with Andrew that in a different way is he mentioned all the races, and obviously Kenny McPeak has put her in all the spots. I just think the gas tank might be getting empty here. Into the form cycle, I'm concerned. She's been running consistently every 3 or 4 weeks, which if we were talking about an Australian racehorse, I would have no problem with, but breeding in the U.S. now, how it is, and conditioning, I just think we're at the end of the form cycle. This is a case where, given my international background, you'd be looking at, okay, well, this is the race to get off the horse and come back after a couple-month break, which obviously I don't think this horse is going to get. So I'm just very leery, and I'm also leery at the value of Swiss Skydiver. As Andrew mentioned, I think this horse is going to be 7-2, 4-1, somewhere around there in this race. And with that, and going against the boys, the uphill battle with the speed, I just don't see Swiss Skydiver contending in this race.
Yeah, and that last point you made is really what I kind of circle back to with the value versus likelihood to win. I'm conflicted on her for a couple of reasons. Number one, I really respect the hell out of Kenny McPeak for putting her in this spot, and I wish more people would take shots like this with champion horses and say, you know what? I've got a champion filly here. I don't think the 3-year-olds are that much better than her. What the hell? How many chances are we going to get to do this? Let's put her in the race. So I really respect that. And I don't think he would have her in this spot if he didn't believe that she was up to the task, training well, and still the same Swiss Skydiver. But that being said, it's like I've seen too much myself. Off that Alabama, she definitely regressed in the Kentucky Oaks. And I say to myself, okay, maybe the Alabama took a little bit out of her. Maybe that run kind of took some of the starch out of her. And while she's not completely done, she's not necessarily that Swiss Skydiver right now, which she will need to be to win the Preakness Stakes. The other issue that I have with her, and this comes down to a betting part. Let's say that she gets to the top of the stretch here, and she's clearly not going to win. She's in the mix. Robbie Alvarado knows that there's a horse going by her, or she's not getting to whoever's in front of her. And I'm not saying he's not going to try. But we've seen fillies in big spots like this before, where if they're going to be an okay fourth, riders tend to take care of them a little bit and get ready for their next spot. Silver Bullet Day in the Belmont Stakes comes to mind for an example. So if she's going to be in the hunt to be third or fourth here, I'm not necessarily sold that Robbie is going to be asking her for every bit of ounce that she has to finish fourth in this spot. So for that reason, because there's going to be more things in her future, likely the Breeders' Cup Distaff in the month, for example, I'm kind of fading her because of the price, because I think she has a real uphill battle to win, and she might be a little bit over the top. But if she wins, I'll be the first person to applaud Kenny McPeak and say, good for you, man. You rolled the dice, you took a shot, and you deserve it.
No kidding. If you're rooting for the story, that's a good story to root for, but we're gamblers. That's not what we do. We zig when everybody else zags, and that's as good a segue as any to our betting on a budget segment here. I was struggling for the right word because this little thing keeps flaring up. So, JD, what direction are we going in? Who's going first? What's going on here?
Yeah, Andrew, what we're going to do is we're going to progress as we usually do from the more normal bets, the win bets. We're going to go to our exactas, our tries, and then you knew I was going to have a super, so I know, Andrew, you had to throw a super together, even though you're not traditionally a super better. You wanted to at least put a sane super out there because I am going crazy with the Cheese Whiz with my super. You guys haven't seen it. You're going to really question humanity once you do.
We've just been warned that it's cataclysmically insane.
Yeah, basically. I mean, that's an easy way to put it. So I'm just going to go ahead and get this out of the way because you guys all know it's coming. And I'm sorry, Gino, if you're watching this, because you're going to hate that I'm betting win and place on this horse. If I could bet, which, by the way, I can't bet on this race. Being an Arizona resident, we're done with that. Live Your Beast Life. I'm doing $8 win and place. Again, we did a $40 max budget here, so that might tell you how much I'm playing the super for, because I have this wager and my super. So $8 win and place on the 11. Live Your Beast Life, and we've got another win play from Darin.
Sure. Pneumatic is going to be close to between 15-1 and 20-1. So obviously, I need to bet the horse to win. So within a $40 budget, a $10 win play. If he goes off 20-1 and wins, that'll be a quick $200. So makes sense when you have a price like that. You have to bet him to win.
And then, Andrew, you've got a pair of exacta plays.
Yes, I do. The primary one, singles, Art Collector on top. I'm not boxing this one. I'm living dangerously. Art Collector on top of 4 others. Number 2, Mr. Big News. I also used 8, 9, and 10. Darin, you convinced me on Pneumatic. I initially wasn't going to throw this horse in. Have to tell you, the post-draw still concerns me. I don't personally think he can win, but it's a situation where if Art Collector wins, Pneumatic runs second, the exacta pays $100 or so, and I don't have it, that would be a 2x4 play, which means that you would grab your nearest 2x4, courtesy of Hacksaw Jim Duggan, and bash yourself in the head with it. So 3 with 2, 8, 9, and 10 for me. Look, if Art Collector Authentic comes in, it's a little bit chalky, but big enough field to where I still think we get at least a couple of bucks out of it, and that's why we're playing a $5 exacta ticket. As the primary exacta play, there's one other one that we'll go through, and I believe that's the next one. Indeed it is. This is a $1 exacta key box with Max Player, horse number 8 in your program. This is simply because if Max Player is first or second and a horse that I see as somewhat logical is in the other spot, I want to cash a ticket, because Max Player, I think, is going to play bigger than the 15-1 odds in the exotic pools. So if this comes in, say, 3-8, I have it for $6, and that's a pretty darn good day for me.
That would be a great day, Andrew, and it'd be a great day for me as well, because one of us would win. So I will just ride on that train with you down the line.
I mean, hey, I appreciate that, and I appreciate you recognizing that at least one regular member of this partnership is displaying some sign of sanity.
All right, we've got 2 trifecta plays from our guest and Darin. Based on what you talked about earlier, I think people can see these coming, but this is the first of your 2 plays.
Yeah, so basically we're just going to key off of Pneumatic here. This is my style of play with trifectas. In a race like this, if I could hone in on one horse, I'll key off of them up and down. This is the up part. Like I said, if Mr. Big News runs back to the 6.5 or 6.25, he can win. He could also run 9th if he bounces, but I don't want him to run first or second and run back to that figure and have me holding my program with no winning tickets. So we're going to use him. We're going to use our collector for all the reasons we talked about. And look, one thing I've learned, especially in races like this, is just about anybody could be 3rd or 4th. So I'm just getting a lot of coverage on the bottom, because if I'm right at the top, I want to make sure that I hit this thing. Sorry, JD, I only used basically everybody except almost everybody except your horse in the 3rd.
You didn't use 1,000 words either, to be fair.
No, I did not. I don't like 1,000 words at all. If he wins, just like I said about Authentic in the Derby, I lose. So hope that doesn't happen again.
Yeah, for 1,000 words being 6-1 on the morning line, none of us used them on any ticket, and this is the first time we've really been mentioning, outside of just talking about a pace potential for, a $1 million Keeneland sale purchase, that just won the shared belief last time out. So.
And is also my silly Breeders' Cup spinner horse in that thing that they do. So if 1,000 Words proves us all wrong, maybe I win something.
I think 1,000 Words, we'll wrap it up, I guess. But with him, for me, I think he's going to be all or nothing here. I can't see him running like a good third. I think he's going to be like freakishly good and win the race, or he's going to run seventh. So I'm going to go to the latter because I don't think the price is going to merit me putting him in the top spot. So I'm going to fade him entirely.
I don't want to question Bob Baffert because that will get us nowhere in life. But the blinkers on angle as well here for 1,000 Words.
Don't get it.
I don't get it at all. And obviously he knows and sees something, but I don't see it. So your second pick's up there, Darin.
Yeah, so this is just the bottom. This is flipping the 10 with the 2-3. If the 10 runs first or second to the 2-3, we cash, So that's pretty much it. Same horses in the third spot. Just hoping Pneumatic runs a big race and we could put it in the right combination.
All right, we're moving to the supers, and Andrew, I will let you lead off. And I don't know how I fit all of this on the right side of the screen, but talk us through this superfecta play here.
Okay, this is pretty straightforward. Darin JD had mentioned that I'm not usually a super player. That's not necessarily the case. There are times where I'll play a dime super for $4.80 using 2 horses up at the top and a total of 5 horses in the second, third, and fourth spots. And this is a twist off of that theme because I am using Art Collector and Max Player on top. If either of those two win, I've got a shot. I'm using the 5 horses that I've used in my exact wagers. I'm using Mr. Big News. I'm using Authentic. And I am using Pneumatic in addition to my top 2. Now, in the last spot, I went all but 3, I believe. I did not use numbers 1, 6, or 11. If you want to hit the all button, it's $16 and change. I just wanted to fit into a $40 budget, so $12 on this ticket. I did not like horse number 1 for Steve Asmussen coming in off of a long layoff. I did not like Jesus' team going 2 turns when I just think he's a 1-turn horse. And I did not at all whatsoever like Live Your Beast Life. So if Live Your Beast Life runs in the top 4 in any way, shape, or form, this ticket goes kaput. Not so, however, for the other ticket that we have. And again, I have not seen this ticket. I have only been told that it is nuts and that we may need to commit JD to a mental institution upon this hitting the internet. So, JD, if you would like to do the honors, please, by all means go ahead and by all means give whatever warnings you want to give to the men, women, and especially children who may be watching this show.
The scary part of this, Andrew, more than anything else, is, okay, number one, I'm breaking a cardinal sin in ticket construction. I'm just getting that out of the way. This is something that I don't recommend doing unless you're playing within yourself, within a budget, you like a long shot horse, and you want to make 4 figures on a super. With that said, what we like in this race, just overall from our discussion points and looking at your superfecta ticket, scares the bejesus out of me. And not bejesus' team, just bejesus.
Yep.
So we have a super key box, 11 with 2, 3, 8, 9, 10.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Exactly. That's breaking every rule, and I realize it ahead of time. Thank you. $24 play.
I'm not frozen, by the way. This is me stupefied. So
for those of you that need some explanation on what this means from a ticket standpoint, so basically what we're taking is we're taking the 11 in all 4 spots, and we're taking those 5 horses in all 4 spots, but the 11 has to hit the board along with those 5 horses for us to win. So the likelihood of that happening, I'll leave that up to you guys, but that is my insane, crazy with the cheese whiz, 10-set super key box. If this hits, I think the podcast is probably over. So I also wanted to give us a nice, fitting conclusion.
Oh, my goodness. So
I don't think I've ever seen a key box before in my life.
Me neither. This is the first for me. I mean, well, it's no secret that we have 3 different approaches to this. There are ways in which we can both hit. Darin, if this comes in 3, 10, 2, whatever, we're dancing. That'll be fine. Yep. I'd love that. I would absolutely love that because I'd have the exacta for $5. You'd have a big try. I'd have the super. And you know what, JD? Yeah, I'll give you this because this is just the kind of guy I am. I will let the 11 dead heat for fourth.
No, just dead heat. You're not going to give me fourth because you want to hit your super too. Okay.
Yes.
I see how it is.
Dead heat for fourth. I'm giving you that.
You want to take my ticket, which is solely based on hitting a super that will pay astronomically, and you want to cut in the value of it just so you can get your ticket home. I'm a team player. Okay.
I mean, he's a
human cohesion, and that is the way in which all three of us can hit. I can't count anymore because apparently this thing was wired to my brain in some way, shape, or form, and now my nerves have to reconnect everything and hopefully do so in as painless a fashion as humanly possible. Having said that, the Preakness card is far more than just the Preakness. It's a 12-race program, a lot of stakes races, a lot of very good horses in action. There is also a very good card at Keeneland that I will be diving into later this evening. I will almost certainly be playing some races from there tomorrow. But we wanted to devote some time in this final thought section to any other horse that has caught our attention over the course of racing anywhere really on Saturday, because honestly, this is unprecedented. We've never had the Preakness compete with Keeneland, which is going to be competing with the Arc tomorrow. There is a lot going on. It's a really cool time to be a racing fan. It's a really cool time to be somebody that bets on these races. So there's a lot going on, and we wanted to make sure that we gave everything its just due. And when we say everything, we mean everything. So JD, would you like to let Darin hit leadoff here? Because I think we might be, in similar crazy veins that will undeniably drive people crazy.
No, I'm straight as an arrow now. I've got a good selection there. But yeah,
really?
Darin, if you have something, by all means, lead off for us.
Sure. I'll actually go to the Black Eyed Susans with a horse that's going to be a price, and it's number 7, Mizzenbeau. This is a horse that has been racing at Woodbine her last 3 starts on a synthetic surface, and a sharp winner last time out, going a mile and a 16th against Truth Hurts, who she meets again here. The thing that caught my eye with this filly was, if you take a look back, her last start on conventional dirt at Churchill Downs, going a mile and a 16th, she finished second to a horse that you may have heard of called She Dares the Devil. That horse has just come back to win the Kentucky Oaks. Now, Bonnie South is going to be a handful in this race. There's no question about it. She's a deserving favorite. Her speed figures stand out. Her last effort in the Alabama second behind Swiss Skydiver was excellent, where she ran a 9 on the Ragozin sheets. But Mizzenbeau also has a 9 on the Ragozin sheets, and believe it or not, it's actually the race 2 starts back, where she ducked out on the first turn. So there's only one other horse in the race that's run a figure fast enough to go with the favorite, and that horse is 12-1 in the morning line, and she's run second to the Kentucky Oaks winner. Put that all together at a decent price, I'll take a shot with Mizzenbeau in the Black Eyed Susan.
I can't fault that. The one thing that scared me about that horse is coming in off of races on synthetic, coming back to dirt. Now, that's a wild card. If she brings that form with her, I think she's got a big shot. And at 12-1, I could certainly fathom taking a swing. That's the kind of horse you really like betting at 12-1. 5 or 6-1, maybe not so much.
Agree.
I'm going to go to a track that I can actually play on Saturday, and that's going to be
Woodbine.
Woodbine.
Okay.
So we're going to go look at race 8, which is the $100,000 Toronto Cup, 1 mile on turf. And if you look at this race and you look at the form, you will see Shrill Spite in here. Shrill Spite disappointed in the Woodbine Mile, to say the least, finishing 7th, and gets what one would think would be a softer spot here. But I like another horse, and that's the 5 Lucky Curlin, 5-1 morning line. Lucky Curlin last up was in the Marine against Shrill Spite and did lose by 2 3/4 lengths. But the big difference here, we're going from synthetic to the turf, and this is a very nice turf pedigree on Lucky Curlin for Marcassi. And I look at the one other turf effort that this horse has put out. It was a turf sprint at Fairgrounds, going 5.5. This horse is not a turf sprinter. This this horse is a miler and maybe even more. One turn, but definitely can get some distance, and I think will appreciate the turn to the turf and could definitely challenge Shrill Spite, especially given that Shrill Spite is 4-5 in the morning line, and I think that's honestly insane. I think we're probably looking at 2-5 on Shrill Spite when all's said and done in the betting in Toronto. So Lucky Curlin given a shot in race 8, the Toronto Cup at Woodbine.
All right. This is going to double as my final thought. So credit where it is due, because the Maryland Jockey Club and the folks at the Arabian Jockey Club made a really good decision. There were rumors that a big race for Arabians was going to act as the lead-in to the Preakness Stakes. These rumors had enough weight behind them to where Jonathan Horowitz, a very prominent figure in the Arabian scene, and a really good guy too, by the way, can't say enough good things about him, was going on Twitter, and there were some very heated conversations in that vein. Credit where it is due. They have put this race at the back end of the card, right after the Preakness. I was a little skeptical that they would do this because obviously if you're in a position, you want eyeballs on your biggest product. I would get why they wanted it in the middle of the card. It would have also wrecked multi-race exotics and made things very, very difficult for a lot of reasons. So kudos to everybody involved for doing the right thing here. And as a result, this is what you get. You get me giving you a 12-1 shot in the finale at Pimlico. So this is a race with a lot of early speed. We've got 12 Arabians signed on. By my count, 9 or 10 of them will want to be on or near the lead early. I want a closer, and I've found one in the form of number 4, Irides. The last 2 races this mare has run have been excellent. She won at Delaware Park going a mile and then did everything but win in a grade 1 race going a mile and an eighth. Go back and watch that race. The comment line says surged late. I think that's a little bit of an understatement. She came flying that day, and she almost got the money at 10-1. She's 12-1 here and gets a very favorable pace situation and race shape. If she is anywhere near 12-1, I think it is a big overlay. Irides, horse number 4, in race number 12 at Pimlico, a grade 1 Arabian race, and kudos to everybody for allowing rationality to prevail and making the right decision for the sake of the Saturday program.
Can I give a slightly chalky selection in that race, Andrew? Is that allowed?
Wait.
Obviously, this is your game.
Hold it. You like chalk?
Slight chalk, 7-2 morning line.
Okay, that's far chalkier than me. Usually the rules are reversed. Happy I'm sitting down for this.
RB Rich Like Me, obviously one of the big speed contenders. This is a TrackMan comment that I think will live in infamy here because I've never seen something as simply put as this if you watch the race. Just won the Texarkana Derby by 11.5 geared down. Greatest of ease.
Like a daring young man on the flying trapeze. Huh?
Well done.
Thank you.
Obviously, spinning back from the Texarkana Derby just a scant 2 weeks ago at Lone Star, but that's showing a lot of confidence from Torres, the trainer here, and I'm going with RB Rich Like Me to maybe not have greatest of ease. I mean, that was a 1-9 win in the Texarkana Derby, but obviously that race, if you watch that race, you will not think there is a chance that RB Rich Like Me can lose.
There's a lot going on, and I think that speaks to the fact that, again, something for everybody on this program in Pimlico. Graded stakes races up and down the card, turf, dirt, sprint, route, a lot going on. And remember, there's a lot of races going on elsewhere too. Belmont's running, Woodbine's running, Remington's running, whole bunch of places are running. I'm sure JD will have opinions on Australia for Lord knows what reason. And that's something that you just need to be a part of. This is going to be a tremendous October Saturday. And these are the sorts of races where it's real easy to be a racing fan because you can say, yeah, there's the Preakness. There's some good horses running. That's great. Take a look at some of these other ones because 12-1 pays 12-1 pretty much everywhere.
I mean, yes, by I don't know. 12-1 pays 12-1.
If the money's green, I don't care. That's the thing. And
as long as the money's not blue, right, Andrew?
Yes, as long as the money is not blue, unless we're playing Monopoly. And by the way, I would own you in any sort of competitive board game. Just throwing it out there. I understand you've got a kid and you're probably getting chutes and ladders practice in there. But, I mean, I'm just saying. Monopoly, Risk, Parcheesi, name your game, man.
Parcheesi.
Yeah, we just did a Parcheesi reference. We're live for the first time. I'm going really, really deep.
We didn't even talk about Keeneland tomorrow with the Shadwell Turf Mile and the Breeders' Future.
Oh, such a good card. Good card.
Yeah, it's pay your bankroll and get ready to fire is all I could say, because I'm going to be right in this chair tomorrow. Multi-screens going, money flying out the door. Don't care. It's going to be a fun Saturday.
And if you're watching us live, I'm going to have some selections. We have a great card at Flemington tonight. Great grade 1 action with the Turnbull Stakes. We're going to have selections, and obviously one of the most exciting horses in all of Australia, Very Elegant, is running in a scant 4 hours from now, 4.5 hours from now. So I know that's past Darin's bedtime on the East Coast, but if you're out here on the West Coast, fire at Australia. We're seeing the part of the spring in Australia that's just exciting to watch as we look ahead to some of the big races coming up the next couple of weeks.
Lots going on. And the important thing is to get involved, find ways to get involved, find ways to get others involved and grow this great game. That's why we do this show. Subscribe to our show on YouTube. We really appreciate that. We are here every week solely for the enjoyment of ourselves and the horse racing public. We're really grateful to Darin Zoccali for taking some time out of his busy schedule to join us to talk Preakness, talk any number of other things going on. Darin, where can people find you?
Right here in the basement in Staten Island, New York. No,
you and Pete Davidson both, by the way.
Yes, this is true. He's not very well liked here, though. On Twitter at the Track 7. Obviously, big on horse racing. We'll have a ton of stuff for you tomorrow. Andrew, myself, Gino, we always talk about wrestling, go through that also on there. Big fantasy football, big NFL guy as well. And by the way, I am in horse ownership now for the first time in about 12, 13 years. And I got in on thoroughbreds, and our filly Stylish Kitten, who won last week at Indiana Grand, is racing on Wednesday, and we think she has a big shot. Trainer says 2 thumbs up. She's training lights out. So fingers crossed she runs well. I think she's in the 4th race at Indiana on Wednesday at number 3, Stylish Kitten. So I think she's got a shot. Root us home. Get us a win.
I just hope she's not carrying too much weight, Darin.
No, she's a 3-year-old filly against older. I'm getting a weight break.
There you go. That's the spirit. Got to spot them where they can win, right?
Yep. I don't know about that's the literal weight. The weight that you're talking about, the figurative weight, could be staunch. We'll see.
I'm just saying, there's a lot to consider when you're running your horses in certain spots. Darin, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. This has been a phenomenal thing that we've been able to do. JD does a lot of the technical stuff, and as much as we bust on each other, I love everything he does with this show. Does a tremendous job, and it's a lot of fun sitting down with him every week. So you know what I'm going to do, because this is just the kind of guy I am. JD, I'm going to let you hit him with the catchphrase on the way out the door.
Bet Andrew's NFL selections. He's 9-3 on the year. Is that the catchphrase? No.
No, but it's much appreciated.
Stay off the beaches.
Stay safe, y'all.